This one is just too exciting to pass up. HRE on HRE. Welcome back, folks. Not only are we getting HRE on HRE in this 1v1, but we are going to get it between Hera and Matiz. And the reason this is exciting here on Altai is that one of these players is an HRE specialist, right? He's a complete nerd. He lives and breathes it, right? When he goes to sleep at night, before he falls asleep, he needs to be 40% more efficient. So he waves his arms around as if he can buff himself into a deeper slumber. That's right, it's Matiz. Matiz, he knows this Civ very well. I'd say he's probably top 10, easily top 10, probably top 5 HRE players in the game right now. And his opponent, Hera, I haven't seen him playing too much HRE. So I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. I think the last time I saw Hera playing as HRE, he made a heavy mistake up against a Mongol player trying to create pocket economies on dry Arabia, which is a very hard thing for a lot of civs to do, but an incredibly difficult thing for a civ like the HRE to do, considering how, you know, lackluster your military presence is in the early game. And that's going to be the exciting part to me, is to see who's going to have a better military presence early on, if it's going to make a difference. Because we have seen that, in fairness, Matiz absolutely adores kind of going into these kind of more early, mid-game kind of rushy strats where he can. He has shown and voiced his hate for the current state of Horseman, but I've also seen him and other players use a Horseman rush quite effectively. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the play here. I kind of expect both of them to play towards the castle. But I think the other factor that, if this was an open map, maybe we see some stable type plays off the back of an immediate castle age pre 10 minutes. But whenever you're talking about Altai, I think cavalry type civs, while they aren't a disadvantage because mobility is just so powerful, so is range for ones like Rus, it's a lot harder to pull off these massive flanks that just turn the tide of the game, right? Because if you actually think about like the way that you kind of gate off these locations, the natural choke points, if you want to go around wide, you're going around super wide, compared to like a map on Dry Arabia where it's just wrapping around a small tree line. Opening-wise, we did see Matiz get on the gold quicker, but I think they are about even now. And for a moment, I thought it was on half speed, the way that felt so slow. Yeah, income per minute, you can already see Matiz is going to be a little bit ahead. He has moved 4 people out with the Prelate, so he has advantage there, and this should give Matiz the edge to tech up a slightly ahead of his opponent. And you can see, yeah, Matiz. Just understanding his timings, right? Like, this is what happens when you play so much of the Civ. You really understand the super optimal plays around the Prelate. This means that now, you can see, he actually backs across to the food line, understanding that with 30 seconds on the buff, it's going to last long enough that they should actually get the required amount of gold. And yeah, we'll move across now. Ark and Chapel, probably going to be the build on both sides. I don't expect any deviation there. And really nice placement here. Actually, if he plops it... Oh, no, he goes somewhere different. I thought he was maybe going to go towards the deer line. That would have been super high value. He could always go professional scouts. I don't know if this is going to be a pro scouts game, but I feel like even HRE players are heavily investing towards the concept of pro scouts. It's just too valuable. And you are a civ that plays a very tight economy. So one of the types of civs that benefits more so than others from going pro scouts. Ones that I think benefit less from pro scouts, I'd probably say France is at the top of the list, just because France doesn't usually tend to care more than anything, right? Or that historically they haven't. I think they're starting to care more because they can be pressured early on. But the whole concept is that you could, if you need a deer, right, you just walk some villages out, stick a mill in the middle of a hunting ground, and then just shoot them on the spot, right? And then as a French player, you never felt pressured. At least that was the old way of the French. But in this new generation, we're starting to see them even start to try and pivot to scouts via the School of Cavalry. But yeah, this matchup, I am honestly expecting stable plays. In terms of how many people... Wow, that's a slow build. 3 compared to 1 here. Interesting choice by both of them. I think maybe you could get your value back quicker if you had a few more people out here building this up, right? Just to get the Prelate in. But if you're microing the Prelate, optimally, he should be able to just buff the same amount of people. It shouldn't hurt you. I think the kind of catch is once you're past 10, right? So you can see Matiz, actually, yeah, understands this perfectly. He's up at 13 villages, which is why he has 3 on it. That's what makes it a bit wonky for Hera. Hera still has his Prelate out on the gold line, and he has a more split economy. That's why he actually hasn't opted to, like, you know, mass produce onto this. Instead, he gets another Prelate out, understanding that he wants to keep the gold gathering up even past this point. And this will allow him to just bank afterwards. And there you go. Immediate switch. Brings everyone across. Has plenty of food to keep producing villages in the meantime. And this should allow him to catch up fairly quick. He won't be as delayed as he originally was going to be. This Prelate is somewhat wasted, though, by the way. In this time, he could easily ran over here, buffed 5 villagers, and came back and prepped to garrison himself. So small, suboptimal plays. They will cost you long term. Remember, HRE on HRE matchup, the most crucial thing is in the first 5, 6, 7 minutes, how efficient is your economy? And Matiz is definitely winning on that kind of scope. I think he has a slight edge at this point, courtesy of the way that he built Darkened Chapel, just to me feeling a lot more optimal. One thing that will kind of be more optimal for Hera is the fact he has this second prelate, though, something that I don't think we've seen out of Matiz yet, which is a little bit surprising. But he has gone for stable. So yeah, we are going to get pro scouts. I was curious to see if it's going to happen. Looks like it's going to be the call. Is there going to be a similar call out of Hera, though? Because Hera, like we said, something that France does all the time, right? Move out with the mill, put it right in the middle of the deer area. But you notice that Matiz done something very different. He wanted to keep his value on the Darkened Chapel. He didn't have the same exact option that Matiz did because these deer are too far away. And because he placed the Darkened Chapel at the wood line, trying to maximize his wood gains in the mid-game. Something that, by the way, Hera's not doing at all. In fact, that's kind of the wonky part about this placement, right? Is you're getting next to no value, you're only getting your food. So you can see, like, your gold line needed another prelate. Your wood line would need another prelate on top of that. You could drag the wood line down here, but it would barely be in range of the buff. You can see, right? So it wouldn't even be that worth it at that stage. So just kind of those small differences. I think Darkened Chapel, like, optimal placement is something tough to talk about game to game because of random generation. It's hard to get right all the time, and I think that's what we're seeing here. Wolves causing a conundrum. No value to them in this game, remember. No bounty system. It's kind of crazy to just watch scouts coming out, just being funneled out, and Wolves not matter for once. It feels like almost all the games I get to cast these days are Roos games. Either one side is Roos or both sides are. Good lord. Yeah, Outpost going down. Just paranoid. Interesting as well, I think he scouted a little bit into his opponent's base. So he doesn't really know that his opponent actually has no true military force, right? He only has scouts, but doesn't want to risk it. And this is the balance of things, right? You'd rather preemptively have this outpost in place in case something bad happens versus have to build it when something bad is happening. And then you lose 1, 2, maybe 3 villages. So I respect the play. I see too many players make the mistake of playing greedy and saying, oh, I don't want to pay the 100 wood. I'll save the 100 wood. And then when the fighting comes, they lose 2 villages. It's like, well, you still paid the 100 wood, but this time it costs you 100 food as well. Yeah, Regnix Cathedral now being built into on both sides. Matiz looks like the same amount of people. No, one more for Matiz. So he should even this up, make it within 10 seconds each other. Then the difference becomes prelate situation. And Hera, oh no. He moved out for the relic, but he didn't see the wolf. So he has to back the prelate completely off. He needs to send a scout over to protect him. Meanwhile, movement out, scouts just gathering from Hera's side, snatching away the deer from right under his nose. Relic placement should be talked about in this game because I do think it slightly favors Matiz. They both have a back one here. There's a central one that's going to be easy to push into for both players. This could be the deal breaker that maybe gives Hera an edge as long as he secures this one in the center first. If he doesn't, I give edge to Matiz. And you see prelates moving out, so he's on top of it. Actually opting to go for 3 prelates to gather all of them. I wish I saw more players do this. Like you have to keep in mind that yes, it costs 100 gold, but if you bank the relics, you know, get up to 3 relics a minute quicker, think how much extra gold you're saving, right? Or gathering, rather. It's definitely worth the investment. And especially with this split kind of economy, Hera benefits a lot from 3 prelates, right? So he unbanked his one from the Darkened Chapel, which needs to be back here for his food lines. Then he's going to have a prelate for his wood line, and he's going to have another one for his gold line. And also, there's a potential situation in which you snatch another relic, a 4th one, away from your opponent if he's slow. Of course, that won't be happening in this game. And Matiz, this has to be frustrating. He's been to the punchline. He didn't even try to gather up the safe relic first, so it's going to take him ages to get his hands on gold treacle. And there's only 1 relic in the center left that he can grab. So Matiz, great opening on the scouts, but now definitely behind Hera. Hera having the edge, and this is where you've got to find a way to apply pressure, because if you sit back and let nothing happen for the next 5 minutes, Hera's going to come at you with a superior force. Matiz, really absolute, like, it's not even it doesn't affect the game like, oh, it's an extra 40% chance of him losing if he doesn't go and pressure in the next 5 minutes. He actually definitely loses the game if he doesn't pressure in the next 5 minutes. And the reason is because now with 3 relics soon to be banked for Hera, Hera will actually be able to scale towards Imperial Age far quicker than you ever will. And you can look at the food, look at the gold right now. You can kind of feel it, right? And this is off the huge delay behind banking anything. He's finally running one of these relics back. A second one here. Did he unbank? Yeah, he unbanked the Archon Chapel Priest just to ensure that he could get it in quicker. But yeah, you're not happy about this for good reason. And it's also going to be trip archery range. A cool solution to what's coming, right? If your opponent is HRE as well, you're probably assuming he's going to go for the man-arms. If he goes for the man-arms, you just build crossbows. And we have started to see HRE players delving into this, right? A lot of people are really frustrated. They think HRE is weak. It's like, oh, man. Yeah, they only have unique infantry. They don't have anything unique about archery ranges. So why would I ever build archery ranges? Because you can afford the units in them more so than most other economies, right? Most other civs. And that's what it's about. And crossbowmen, you know, usually they cost a decent trickle of gold. Well, guess what? You've got plenty of gold, son, so spend all that you want. Now knights as well. And this is the other thing, right? He's just reading it perfectly. There's two openers now into Castle Age for Matiz. It's either knights or it's man-arms. And either one of them gets countered by crossbowmen. Really great heads-up play out of Hera here. Yeah, he gets the confirmation of what's coming. So we'll continue to spam out the crossbows in the meantime. Is going into the extra damage. I hope he gets marching drills. Remember, marching drills does affect the crossbowman, puts him up to 1.25 movement speed per tile. Sounds like a small difference, but allows you to potentially kite a little bit better or stay in range and snipe out 1 or 2 additional knights. And these knights are pricey investments, right? Like, you gotta keep in mind it's 140 food, 100 gold. Matiz already going to be behind on the economy front when you consider it's 2 versus 3 relics. And Matiz trying to actually just get an advantage elsewhere. I like this play, like the Sacred Sites. If you have this ebb and flow of the center map with the Knights, you need to actually exploit it on the gold front, and that's what he's doing, right? If he controls all 3 Sacred Sites, he pressures his opponent to come out and play, but also he evens up the gap, right, at that extra relic right now that's making a big difference for Hera. Almost feels like Hera's trying to save for Imp Age here, though. Like, reach the ample amount of crossbowmen to hold, and then just go for an Imperial Age rush. Because you understand that your gold investment is lower than your opponent's, right? Your opponent is investing a lot more food and gold into this military force in the mid-game than you are with the crossbowmen, right? It's 80-40 compared to the 100 and 140. So you're basically building 2 for the 1. And while the Knights are fairly tanky with over double the health, it's the damage increase, right? It's 21 damage per shot compared to these Knights that I think are like 20-ish, but they need to be in melee. Yeah, trying to sneak in. Nice use of the walls. Hera just not like overcommitting to palisade spamming. I think a lot of players are guilty of this. They palisade too early and take efficiency away from their early economy. Or they don't palisade at all. And then, especially, I've noticed on Altai, more so than other maps, run into huge issues with these wraparounds in the tree lines. Because everything is condensed, right? There's only so far you can expand an economy back to make it feel retracted. There's only so many places your opponent's attention can be drawn. So these kind of natural funnel points beg to be walled if you know you're going to be against a mobile force. We've seen it be utilized by France time and time again on this map. We've seen it be utilized by Rus as well. And Hera getting max value out of the scout. Not max value. He's not going to snipe a villager here, but it's the fact that he knows what's coming next, right? He sees the Siege Workshop. He sees the rack. Siege Workshop, amazing solution to the crossbowman. Should force a pivot out of Hera. The question is what that's going to be as he starts to drop the stables. So looks like it's going to be Knights of his own. Decent way of dealing with the Mangonels. And that's going to put Hera a foot ahead again. Really problematic right now for Matiz. We said he needed to find value, right? And I said that 4.5 minutes ago, around that time. So we're kind of at that 5-minute mark I was talking about, where he hasn't found value. And now he'll start to fall behind Hera. You see on some of the incomes, he's still competitive, courtesy of his more like optimal placement in the Archon Chapel. But the gold is the problem, man. And both of you building into units that heavily rely on gold. Crossbowman line. Backing them up. I like that he backs them into 2 groups, right? He's going to split the force, and the incoming Mangonel is going to get less value as well. Shots in. Decent damage done, but the crossbowmen are still cleaning up the Knights quicker. And you can see the Knights, they now move in onto the Mangonel to try and clear it up. Hera heads up once again. And he has the advantage. Pushes him back. Matiz loses the Mangonel. That's a huge investment at this stage. Remember, they are not cheap units. You can see it here. 200 gold, 400 wood. Every single one lost at this stage is definitely felt because it's a situation in which Hera pushes himself a step closer than you are to an Imperial Age upgrade if he chooses it. Most important thing for him right now is the decap. And, well, Matiz, I mean, he kind of signed this situation, right? He said come out and play when he took all 3 of the sacred sites, and Hera does exactly that in emphatic fashion. Now, Landsknecht, we've seen... Landsknecht... There you go. We've seen Landsknecht used before against crossbowmen. It's actually a very surprisingly effective strategy. They're only an 80 health unit, yes, but these crossbowmen, by default doing their 14 damage, they don't get that bonus 9, right? And they are a slow-moving unit. And if he gets the movement speed upgrade as well, which I wouldn't be surprised if he was doing in the Blacksmith as we speak, he's going to be quite lethal. And it's not that pricey, right? 100 food, 250 gold. You definitely need it when you're using Landsknecht because they need to gap close. They need to actually instantly do damage. They are the definition of a glass cannon unit. Double Mangonels trying to roll out. Really problematic considering he still hasn't got the greased axles. I hope that after this Mangonel, he researches greased axles. If he's them that much quicker, these crossbowmen die. These crossbowmen are still 1.12, right? They didn't get upgraded. So that's actually a kind of a deal breaker that you haven't bothered to research the greased axles, considering that would bring you close to the same movement speed as the crossbowmen. In fact, I think that would put you on par with them, if I'm not mistaken, from 0.88. Yeah, should do. Maybe even slightly ahead. And at that stage, right, if you're able to chase down this crossbowman, it means that Hera can't station them aggressively anymore. But you need to be fast. He's starting to roll out now. And look at this wrap from Hera. He's trying to be smart about this, but Matiz has a defense force around the back, and he pushes forward in the center. So central control being taken away again from Hera. Remember, Hera is actually behind on the economy front. It's only 5 villages, and it's not the end of the world considering he got the extra relics, right? But it's a slight detail to highlight. Like the transition into farmlands, I think this is the way to play with Archon Chapel. Keep at least half the space free. It's tough to do for a lot of these players because of the way that you play HRE. Because you're playing clustered, you can't go for that maximum value Archon Chapel out in the open with nothing surrounding it, right? Usually some of your infrastructure is going to be built alongside it. Mangonels trying to just give an advantage to Matiz on the home field here. Hera's still pushing in, though. And with reinforcements arriving, that should push Hera away. Matiz, did he lose any workers for this? It doesn't look like it at all, no. There was nobody here. No one on the stone line, no one on the gold line. In fact, there's no gold mining at all out of Matiz. Compare that to Hera, who still has 16 people working on this gold vein. A surprising differentiation at this stage in the game. And Matiz, he kind of needed it, right? He's going into these Mangonels. He's heavy into the siege weapons compared to Hera, so he needs the additional income off of the wood lines. And I like the way that he's utilizing this long-term, right? Like, he placed this Archon Chapel, and now, several minutes past it, he's still getting full value out of it because he knew that he'd need these wood lines ahead of time, essentially. Yeah, look at that, guys. Could it be? This isn't meant to be buildable anymore. What is this? The Springwheel meta is meant to be dead. Not entirely, folks. Springwheels have more damage now against siege weapons than they used to. They just do less damage against anything non-siege. Why this is a big deal is because against Mangonels, they snipe them out very quickly. And in fact, when it comes out, you'll see with the damage, it can two-shot a Mangonel. So there you go. You get your 30 damage base, and you get 90 extra to siege. With a 10 Tala range, you can easily, with pairs of Springwheels, snipe out Mangonels, which is quite cost-effective, right? It's 250, 250, so 500 each compared to 400 and 200. But the Mangonels don't actually react to the Springwheels. They don't have the range to, they don't have a way of really protecting themselves. So if you misplace the Mangonels at all, you're going to lose them. You might lose one in a sec. These Mangonels. Hera doesn't see this. Oh no, he's going to lose so many villagers! The whole gold line! Oh my god, Matiz! So well played around the vision game there. Hera, a completely huge drop in his economy there, down to 41 villagers compared to the 60 now, Matiz. And that is going to force the hand of Hera. Hera now needs to find a way to dent Matiz. What a play. The patience shown. He waits until all Mangonels are in range. He waits until all the villagers are on the gold line after building the house and exploits it to the maximum. Not only to snipe out the villagers, but also to shut down this expansion. Gets rid of a house, forcing another one to be needed. and sets Hera back by a decent margin here. That was a 20% hit in his villager production lines. Oh my, oh my. How the tides have turned. And Matiz respects it and backs up. He's spotted the Siege Workshop. He understands what his opponent is building and thus backs away before the Springles can punish him. But now he needs his own pivot. And you see the Springles now being produced by him. Never to be beaten to the punchline. Meanwhile, around the back, raiding attempt again. Not going to find that villager line. The villager line is always on the front. It's always on this wood line. And now the Springles. Mangonel's getting sniped out. Whoopsie daisy. Takes 3 shots courtesy of the range resistance, but he's got 3 Springles to work with, so good enough. And these Springles to kill will be 2 hits each, remember. Because 120 damage out each Springle, minus 8 damage, puts you past the threshold of 200 health. Now push in. Another Mangonel exposed, needs to back him up. He's going to have to forfeit some ground here. So many of these Langsneck waiting to swing their swords. But if they get charged into by the Knights, there's going to be a lot of losses here. Mangonel shots. Reasonable splash. A little bit of chip damage coming out. We'll force the engagement now. Mangonel's trying to fire off another salvo before they're taken out. Decent damage on the crossbows, but he's prioritizing the Knights instead. And the Langsneck trying to wrap around on this. The Knights now coming in to assist. But Matiz looking pretty outnumbered here. Hera holding him back. The Sprills trading out Duke for Duke, piece for piece. And now with 2 Mangonels left, can Matiz turn this? He needs more troops on the front line. He needs it quick. He turns onto the crossbow, and splash damage is good, and most of them are gone. Langsneck, way pointed out, not attacking all the time, but they attack enough. The army is wiped. Hera is forced to retreat again. And Matiz, able to chase out for the moment. Needs to be careful not to go too far, though, or he might lose these units. He's getting overconfident. It's still 2 Springles on the high ground, so your Mangonel, your 1 remaining one is not safe, but at least with this company of 2 Springles, you got decent damage done. Hera, forced to prioritize shots onto the Mangonels, never dealt with the Springald threat, and that's why he ends up losing so many troops and so many of his Springald army. Langsneck, a very expensive scout, I'll say that much. We'll show him what up and what's coming. And after all this, I mean, the resource drain that you're starting to feel on both of these players, right? But the cost efficiency that's coming out of what Matiz is doing with his units, you can definitely feel that as well. Definitely feels like Hera, you know, the amount of gold he's spending here. Not finding the bang for buck he was hoping for. But now a wraparound from the Knights. And this eco line is exposed. He's reacting to it, though. Mangonels. Dodged out just in time. Hera. You know, when the times get tough, folks, you spam out the scouts, and the scouts are making the difference with the Langsneck. Let's see if they can do it again. Backing off for the moment, though. He's a little bit paranoid about what's coming. Crossbow army has been built up a bit again, but not as heavy an investment as the first time, right? It's more about the Knights. You can see, actually, the kind of breakdown in the base of Hera. It's Hera having 5 stables compared to the 3. And a few Knights sneaking in here. They could do some decent damage. They need to, remember, because Hera took that huge hit to his eco line when that gold line got sniped by the Mangonels. Now just trying to pressure a little. Mangonel scares him away again. He needs the quality units here. This is the problem. The scouts, great cannon fodder, but don't really clean up Knights effectively, as we're seeing. 6 sides capped again. So many Knights now. Frostmoment, just picking off Matiz's units 1 by 1. Matiz, he's going to be forced towards an all-in at this rate. And it's just mainly scouts, right? There's not enough of them, though, I don't think. The Knights charge in. Mangonel's reasonable damage, but remember, it's still only 1 Mangonel. So you don't care. You actually have the numbers to beat this out. Matiz, forced between a rock and a hard place. It looks like he's going to fall. His army is going to be wiped. There's just too many Knights coming out from Hera. And that relic really did make the difference. It kept this influx of Knights pushing out and gave him the edge against Matiz. And with the army being wiped and nothing left to his name, it looks like it's going to be a tap out. You know when you're building spears against an HRE player, it's all but over. Hera, well played with the opening, well played to get the advantage on the relics, and well played to play into that center so aggressively. Nice attempt by Matiz. I love the snipe out on the gold expansion and the patience shown, but in the end, well, gold wins out. Surprise, surprise, when you're talking about HRE on HRE.